What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. So this is going to be the second video of my Cold War integration into Warzone gun analysis videos. So today I'm going to talk about the MAC-10 because everybody seems to be talking about this. And I asked last video what people wanted to see, and I think this was the one that was asked for the most. So I'm going to go pretty in-depth today. I spent more time on this than the M16 video. Found some interesting things. And I'm not going to give any suggested loadouts again because I haven't even had time to think about that or play with the gun, but you guys can take the base stats that I've found and then maybe, build around those base stats with what the attachments say they do, which might be quite a bit different once we actually get it all tested. But for now, you can assume that they, for the most part, do what they say they do. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to hop into it. Found some interesting things, and I'm going to show it all to you here. Okay, so I'm going to compare the MAC-10 to the Modern Warfare MP5. I don't have the data for the rest of the Cold War SMGs yet, so I don't know what the best SMG might be. But prior to Cold War integration, the MP5 was the best SMG just because of how fast it killed, pretty much. It had good movement speed and it had good TTK, which kind of are the two things that are most important for SMGs. So first off, let's talk about the fire rate. Obviously, the MAC-10 shoots quite a bit faster at 1118 RPM versus basically 800 RPM for the MP5. Headshot damage is 40 on the MAC-10, chest damage is 25, stomach damage 25, and extremities is 22. So 25 damage per bullet is it's a special number because in Warzone you can't put in a plate and end up at any health value other than 100, 150, 200, or 250. So either no plates, one plate, 2 plates, or 3 plates. You always end up at those values when you put a plate in. So when you come up against enemies in Warzone, 90% of the time, I'm just making that number up, but a huge percentage of the time, the person you're shooting at is going to have one of those 4 health values, the 100, 150, 200, 250, one of those 4. So 25 damage per bullet means that at any one of those health values, your TTK is basically the most efficient it can be because it takes exactly the number of bullets to kill to do that exact damage. So if they have 100 health, it takes exactly 4 bullets to kill, and you don't overkill them with extra damage at all. Whereas with most of the other guns in the game, that's not true. So like the MP5, for example, does 34 damage to the chest. So if you hit all chest shots on someone and they have 150 health. If you shoot 4 bullets at them, you do 136 damage. And then if you shoot a 5th bullet, you have to shoot that whole 5th bullet, even though you're going to way overkill them. So you shoot a 5th bullet, and your damage that you've done goes up to 170, even though they had 150 health. So there's this efficiency thing. That's what makes TTK different than DPS. Is basically like the efficiency of the TTK compared to the damage per bullet. So that's kind of something interesting to think about, and that helps the MAC-10 have very good TTK numbers across the board with chest and stomach shots. So the MAC-10, interestingly, only has 1 damage drop-off, and it's pretty far. It's out at 15.5 meters. Tested this a bunch today, got these damage values. In the 15.5 and longer range, it does 32 to the head, 20 to the chest, 20 to the stomach, and 17 to extremities. So it's interesting that it doesn't have another drop-off. Most SMGs in Modern Warfare have drop-offs. So at range, the MAC-10 is going to be a lot better than the MP5 because the MP5 shoots way slower and does less damage out at longer ranges. ADS time on the MAC-10 is very good, 167 milliseconds. Movement speed's fantastic, 5.08 meters per second. Reload time's 2 seconds, so it's faster than the MP5 again. So sprint to fire and tactical sprint to fire time, these are a little higher on the MAC-10, and that's because of this open bolt delay, which is currently displaying wrong on the new version of the website, apparently. It's supposed to be 50 milliseconds, not 0.05. But anyway, so there's an extra 50 milliseconds on the sprint to fire time and the tactical sprint to fire time because of the open bolt delay. So what that means is when you click, there's a 50 millisecond delay between your click and the gun firing when compared to the other weapons. So I compared this to an MP5, and there were 50 extra milliseconds. I could tell just using the gun that there was an open bolt delay. So that's how I knew to test for it. Then the bullet velocity is a little lower on the MAC-10, but I'll show you later in the video. There's some stats there's some attachments you can bring this up with and make it actually pretty good bullet velocity. Hipfire area is the same as the Modern Warfare SMGs at 7.5 kilopixels squared, and that's all from the same FOV. So my measurements are all taken from the same FOV. So all you're doing when you look at that number is comparing So you shouldn't be saying, oh, well, this is going to be exactly 7.5 kilopixels squared on every screen. That's not true. It depends on your FOV, but all my measurements were taken from the same place. So you should be able to just judge based on that. And then let's look at the ADS movement speed. So ADS movement speed for the MAC-10 is very good, 3.36 meters per second, which I think is the new fastest of any SMG. So stats-wise, this is looking like it's going to be very, very competitive with other SMGs. But let's go look at the TTKs and see how that works out. Okay, so looking at TTK comparison between the MAC-10 and the MP5, I've got it set on 250 plates, chest shot, including open bolt delay, and not including sprint to fire ADS, and including bullet travel time. So, looking at the TTK, it's slightly worse than the MP5, out to that first drop-off of the MP5, which is 9.5 meters, but just a tiny, tiny bit worse. I mean, we're talking like 10 milliseconds here, and that's including the open bolt delay, because in most SMG fights, pretty much you're both seeing each other, reacting, and pulling the trigger right away. So in situations where someone with an MP5 sees someone with a MAC-10 at the same time, the MP5 is going to shoot 50 milliseconds earlier if they both have the same reaction to it. So you should probably include open bolt delay in most situations, but there are some situations where maybe you see the person first and it doesn't exactly matter, and you just want to know how fast the gun melts without open bolt delay. So once it starts shooting, so if you turn this off, you'll see the MAC-10, the orange line, actually does kill a little bit faster than the MP5, and it does have that extra range. So I think it's going to be an extremely competitive weapon, very good. I wouldn't say it's not like way better than the MP5 or anything, but I would say that it's highly competitive, and we finally have an option besides the MP5. Before it was like, yeah, maybe you could use the MP7, but the DPS and TTK are quite a bit worse on the MP7. So that's why the MP5 was just the standard. But it looks like, at least with the MAC-10, I haven't looked at the other guns from Cold War yet, but the MAC-10 is going to be very competitive. If you swap it over to extremities, the difference is quite a bit stronger here. So the MP5 kills, let's see, 602 to 658, so 56 milliseconds faster than the MAC-10. But again, that's with the open bolt delay. If you turn the open bolt delay off, it comes all the way down to being the same as the MP5 roughly. So then you also get that extra range there, so that's really nice. And like I said, the MAC-10 only has one drop off, so out at longer ranges it kills way, way faster than the MP5. So another stat that I think people don't think about very often that's pretty important is the total damage you can do per magazine, especially when you're fighting up close. Because the more damage potential you have in your magazine, the more likely you are to be able to win a gunfight with multiple enemies because you don't have to reload. So the MAC-10 has a maximum potential damage per magazine in the first damage drop-off of 1,300 damage. So it's 25 times 52, because it has a 52 round mag you can equip. And then the MP5 has a maximum damage per mag potential of 1,530 when you shoot them in the chest in the first damage drop-off. And that is that 34 damage to the chest times 45 damage, or 45 bullets in your magazine with the 45 round mag. So that's something important to think about. MP5 can do a little bit more damage per mag than the MAC-10, so it kind of balances out a little more. All those really good statistics we just went over. So that's something to think about when you're building these guns. Okay, so I haven't tested everything for this gun yet because I don't even have everything unlocked, but I did test bullet velocity changes based on barrels and damage range changes based on barrels, as well as how the first suppressor affects your damage range. So the barrels barely do anything for damage range. Very, very small amount. They're all between like 3 and 5% extra range, so it's almost not worth using them for the damage range. But they do help with bullet velocity a lot. So for the bullet velocity, the first barrel that increases bullet velocity here, the 5.3 extended, this brings your bullet velocity all the way up to 486, which is equal to an increase of 36.5%. And then the next barrel, so the extended is at 36.5%. The next barrel, this reinforced heavy, that brings you all the way up to 686 meters per second, which is an increase of 93%. So that's a huge increase in bullet velocity there. And then the last barrel that I have unlocked, I don't have the final one unlocked yet, but this Ranger barrel, which also increases bullet velocity, that brings you all the way up to 727 meters per second. So that is just a gigantic leap in bullet velocity. It's 104% faster than with no barrel. So you can get it all the way up to like default Modern Warfare AR bullet velocity with the Ranger barrel. And again, I don't have this last one unlocked yet, so I can't test it, but all of this will be up on the site eventually. I'm just kind of going one by one right now, getting base stats. And all this information is going to be on the website tonight. Hopefully, we're going to try to launch the new version of the website tonight. And like I've said, Modern Warfare and Warzone on the homepage of the website are both going to link to the same thing. So for now, when you go to the game selection page, Warzone and Modern Warfare, when you click these, they're both going to do the same thing because the guns are basically the same. Cold War has totally different stats and everything, but the guns for these two are the same, except Warzone has these new Cold War weapons. So for now, they're going to be in the same place. They're both going to do the same thing, so it's going to look like Modern Warfare, but it will have it'll have the MAC-10 in here, so you can compare it to other SMGs. And then I put the M16 in marksman rifles for now. I'll add tac rifles eventually, but for now it's just one of the marksman rifles because it's essentially filling the same slot in Modern Warfare versus Cold War. They just called it something different. So yeah, the M16's in marksman rifles if you're looking for it once the site goes live. So the one thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about the damage range changes, the sound suppressor actually has a pretty significant effect on damage range. So that brings your first drop off, there's only one drop off, but the drop off from 15.5 down to 13, which is pretty significant. That is a 16% reduction in damage range. That's decently significant. I mean, that's approaching like lightweight suppressor levels. So I'm not sure. I think this last one's a suppressor. Is it the agency suppressor? I don't know. I haven't played Cold War very much, but this will probably be the one to use if you want to stay suppressed. But otherwise, I probably wouldn't use this. I mean, that's a pretty big sacrifice there, bringing your damage range down 16%. I don't know. It's going to be fun to play with, but I think I covered pretty much everything I've tested so far for this gun, so I hope you guys find that helpful. I do think the MAC-10 is a very good gun. I think it's going to be fun to use, and I do think it's a viable option to use in place of the MP5. I still think the MP5 is very good, and I think they kind of trade blows in some ways, but I do think maybe the MAC-10 is a little bit better overall. So I'm going to be using it on my classes for a while just because I'm tired of running the same things. As I test the rest of the SMGs and the rest of the ARs, I'm going to keep making these summary videos for you guys and keep getting the data uploaded to the website the same day I test. So hopefully we'll have some more information here pretty soon and we can start building some awesome classes for Warzone. But thank you guys all for watching as always. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. So have a good day.